really from?
We gained false information. I feel a little.
Okay, hello everyone. We're going to cover some of the news of Trump threatening 100% tariffs on Canada. Yeah, I've been saying this for all week, really. That speech by CARNEY was such a disaster.
A little bit cheated.
Don't go shopping until you watch your marketplace.
I'll just kind of ease into the stream here as a few people trickle in, because there's quite a bit of news on this. I mean, I saw a bunch of these videos. I mean, look at this video, has 600,000 views from CBC just 8 hours ago. That's actually incredible. So this is definitely a topic that people are interested in. Am I live? I think so. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Just testing this out here.
Well, this is a Fox News alert this morning. President Trump is threatening Canada with tariffs if the country makes a deal with China. Now, as Canada appears to oppose the U.S. acquisition of Greenland, Trump wrote this on Truth Social. If Governor CARNEY, notice he said governor there, thinks he is going to make Canada a drop-off port for China to send goods and products into the United States, he's sorely mistaken. China will eat Canada alive, completely devour it, including the destruction of their businesses, social fabric, and general way of life. If Canada makes a deal with China, it will immediately be hit with a 100% tariff against all Canadian goods and products coming into the U.S. Now, let's bring in former special envoy to Ukraine, Keith Kellogg. I was so excited to talk with you, General Kellogg. Thank you for your service to the Trump administration. Once again, you did a wonderful job in term 2, like term 1. You were in Davos.
Man, this is so scary. Again, I'm just going to ease into the stream here because hopefully we can take some calls, stuff like that. I might actually edit the thumbnail a little bit.
With President Trump, what do you make of this latest threat against Canada? 100% for, quote, Governor CARNEY.
Yeah, thanks, Kaylee, for having me on. You know, I just amazes me that people do not understand President Trump. President Trump dominated Davos, and his speech in Davos was great, and he talked about Greenland. The fact of the matter, and I just wish people would stop clutching their pearls. Greenland has been on the table for a long time, since 1867, when the then Secretary of State Seward, when he bought Alaska, so it's called Seward's Folly, he also wanted to buy Greenland at the time. Fast forward to President Truman. Truman was willing to buy Greenland as well. We're doing it for national security reasons. And for Canada, as an example, to take Chinese goods, President Trump is exactly right on providing tariffs. He is doing this for the security of the United States. And I applaud him for it. And he's very smart about what he's doing. I just wish people would back off a little bit, understand the national security elements, understand the history, and they'll do just fine. But stop going to this Trump derangement syndrome. Just stop it and understand what we're trying to do with national security. That's all it's about.
Trump is a businessman, and I was fascinated in his...
Canada is not going to do that, though. Canada's going to keep with the Trump derangement syndrome, of course.
Davos speech, to hear him talk about Swiss watches and how this tariff negotiation went about. Then he talked about talking to another foreign leader, and this person kind of rubbed him the wrong way. So she was demanding not to have tariffs. So he elevated them even higher before settling at a certain rate. Did you see any of this real-time back and forth? Take us into Davos, what it's like sitting by President Trump as he does this big...
U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to hit Canada with a 100% tariff on all Canadian goods if the country's prime minister strikes a trade deal with China. If Canada makes a deal with China, it will immediately be hit with a 100% tariff against all Canadian goods and products coming into the USA, Trump wrote on his social media platform, Truth Social. Tensions between Trump and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney have escalated in recent days after Carney gave a speech in Davos, Switzerland, pushing against the world's great powers. After withdrawing Canada's invitation from the Gaza Board of Peace, U.S. President Donald Trump lashed out at Canadian Prime Minister Carney over his visit to China and deals with the Chinese.
Crazy, man. Crazy.
Thank you very much, Larry. I'm going to start in French and then I'll switch back to English. Merci, Larry. C'est un plaisir et un devoir d'être parmi vous en ce point tournant pour le Canada et pour le monde. Et je parlerai aujourd'hui de la rupture de l'ordre mondial, de la fin d'une fiction agréable et du début d'une réalité brutale où la géopolitique des grandes puissances n'est soumise à aucune contrainte. Mais je vous soumets, par ailleurs, que les autres pays, en particulier les puissances moyennes comme le Canada, ne sont pas impuissants. Ils possèdent la capacité de construire une nouvelle ordre qui intègre nos valeurs, comme le respect des droits humains, called the power of the powerless. And in it, he asked a simple question: how did the communist system sustain itself? And his answer began with a greengrocer. Every morning, this shopkeeper places a sign in his window: "Workers of the world unite." He doesn't believe it. No one does. But he places the sign anyway to avoid trouble, to signal compliance, to get along. And because every shopkeeper on every street does the same, the system persists. Not through violence alone, but through the participation of ordinary people in rituals they privately know to be false. Havel called this living within a lie. The system's power comes not from its truth, but from everyone's willingness to perform as if it were true. And its fragility comes from the same source. When even one person stops performing, when the greengrocer removes his sign, the illusion begins to crack. Friends, it is time for companies and countries to take their signs down.
Hello there, Celia. Did you change? I think you changed maybe your screen name. I recognize that that picture. I'm thinking about the governor getting a 3 a.m. visit and becoming Maduro. Oh, one sec. I got some food coming. One sec. Oh,
For decades.
yeah. I think are you the same person with the Montana screen name? But man, it's crazy. This is so like this speech that Carney gave was such a mistake.
For decades, countries like
Okay, cool.
Canada prospered under what we called the rules-based international order. We joined its institutions, we praised its principles, we benefited
Nice. How are you doing tonight?
from its predictability.
I'm just chilling. I think I'm going to I'll cover this a little bit because there's some clips I want to watch, but then I'm also going to do a stream later on the Alberta independence thing again. I'm just going to do kind of a general recap of that. And then, yeah, we'll see.
And because of that, we could pursue values-based foreign policies under its protection. We knew the story of the international rules-based order was partially false, that the strongest would exempt themselves when convenient. That
this is what I didn't know this was going to happen. This is what I thought would happen. Carney making the speech puts Canada as the clear number one, at least publicly antagonizer. I don't even know if that's a word. Antagonist, like the number, like I don't even want to say enemy because I just don't want to say that, but the number one, I don't even know if enemy is probably too strong of a word, but the number one person on Trump's list, I think, that you're trying to publicly humiliate Trump on the world stage like this. No other country has done this. Even China doesn't talk like this. Russia doesn't talk like this. Venezuela doesn't talk like this. This is the one obvious, not even really ambiguous verbal shot at Trump and the US. So it obviously puts Canada right at the top of the list for countries Trump's going to have a problem with. This is so stupid. A lot of people in Canada thought this speech was so brilliant. For who?
Rules were enforced asymmetrically. And we knew that international law applied with varying rigor to.
Yeah, there's a big storm, hey? Like I saw there's a bunch of snow in Texas, which is pretty cool. I mean, maybe not if you're in the middle of the storm, but wait until Trump completely pulls U.S. funds out of NATO. Let these middle powers fall on their assets. Man, that might happen because, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I don't know if that, I don't know. We will see. I don't know if Trump feels a great obligation to protect Canada at this point.
Depending on the identity of the accused or the victim. This fiction was useful. And American hegemony in particular helped provide.
I'm going to play a little bit more of this video, then I'll get to some of the news clips that have been going around today.
Public goods, open sea lanes, a stable financial system, collective security, and support for frameworks for resolving disputes. So we placed the sign in the window. We participated in the rituals. And we largely avoided calling out the gaps between rhetoric and reality. This bargain no longer works. Let me be direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition. Over the past 2 decades, a series of crises in finance, health, energy, and geopolitics have laid bare the risks of extreme global integration. But more recently, great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons.
What are you doing? You're putting the target on Canada to be attacked and trolled. And I mean, attacked meaning like economically, but dude, what are you doing?
Tariffs as leverage, financial infrastructure as coercion, supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited. You cannot live within the lie of mutual.
It's snowing in Florida? I didn't know that. I saw Oklahoma, I think, and Texas, but there's snow. So there's snow all over America right now. That's incredible. It's very cold where I am here too. Like there's obviously snow, but it's like super, super cold right now.
Will benefit through integration when integration becomes the source of your subordination. The multilateral institutions on which.
Oh, this is so reckless. I got some food. Just one sec.
Which the middle powers have relied, the WTO, the UN, the COP, the architecture, the very architecture of collective problem solving are under threat. And as a result, many countries are drawing the same conclusions, that they must develop greater strategic autonomy in energy, food, critical minerals, in finance, and supply chains. And this impulse is understandable. A country that can't feed itself, fuel itself, or defend itself has few options. When the rules no longer protect you, you must protect yourself. But let's be clear-eyed about where this leads. A world of fortresses will be poorer, more fragile, and less sustainable. And there's another truth. If great powers abandon even the pretense of rules and values for the unhindered pursuit of their power and interests, the gains from transactionalism will become harder to replicate. Hegemons cannot continually monetize their relationships. Allies will diversify to hedge against uncertainty. They'll buy insurance, increase options in order to rebuild sovereignty. Sovereignty that was once grounded in rules, but will increasingly be anchored in the ability to withstand pressure. This room knows this is classic risk management. Risk management comes at a price. But that cost of strategic autonomy, of sovereignty, can also be shared. Collective investments in resilience are cheaper than everyone building their own fortresses. Shared standards reduce fragmentations. Complementarities are positive sum. And the question for middle powers like Canada is not whether to adapt to the new reality. We must. The question is whether we adapt by simply building higher walls or whether we can do something more ambitious. Now, Canada was amongst the first to hear the wake-up call, leading us to fundamentally shift our strategic posture. Canadians know that our old comfortable assumptions that our geography and alliance memberships automatically conferred prosperity and security, that assumption is no longer valid. And our new approach rests on what Alexander Stubb, the President of Finland, has termed value-based realism. Or to put another way, we aim to be both principled and pragmatic. Principled in our commitment to fundamental values, sovereignty, territorial integrity, the prohibition of the use of force except when consistent with the UN Charter, and respect for human rights. And pragmatic in recognizing that progress is often incremental, that interests diverge, that not every partner will share all of our values. So we're engaging broadly, strategically, with open eyes. We actively take on the world as it is, not wait around for a world we wish to be. We are calibrating our relationships so their depth.
How does this speech look now? I mean, this was so cute before. How does it look now?
Vashi, this was a speech that was clear. It was direct.
Listen to some of the Canadians. Woo! Thank you, Carney. You're going to ruin our country. You're going to make America give us 100% tariffs.
A speech that was clear. It was direct. What made it so significant?
Well, the speech, Omar, I am told, was entirely written by the Prime Minister himself, which is certainly rare. Yes, there was input from people around him, but he explicitly wrote it himself. And it is, I think, the frankest assessment by a world leader of the world as we in the aggregate see it, with Trump in it, at the same time by a world leader who has the most to lose by enunciating that very vision, right? Because of our nature with the United States, because of how intertwined our economies are, that very fact alone, I think, is what makes it significant.
Vashi, this was...
Oh, man, this is such a mistake. Some people are saying that maybe Carney's trying to do this to set up another election. But, I mean, come on, dude. What are you doing? Okay, we'll get to this video here because this is the big. This video got just uploaded from on CBC News 8 hours ago. 633,000 views. That is as they would say, a banger video. I mean, it's almost at 1 million. That's very big for Canadian news to be popping off that hard on a video.
We're following breaking news on the tensions between Canada and the United States. U.S. President Donald Trump has abruptly reversed course on a new trade relationship between Canada.
I agree with this. Canada should smarten up. It's a silly, morbid pleasure I have as a Montanan. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Canadians are afraid of the orange man, but run into the... Yeah, for sure. Carney and communist countries are too... For sure. It's crazy, man. I agree. Golden Dome, Fortress of America. I'm a Canadian and I'm calling you out. Commie Carney.
And China. Trump had previously supported the recently signed deal, but now he's making fresh tariff threats over that very agreement. Linda is back with more on this post. What do we know so far?
Well, we know it now appears certain, coming out of the Prime Minister's trade trip to China and that widely well-received speech in Davos at the World Economic Forum, that President Trump has Canada in his...
Yeah, but this worked for him in the election. That's one theory on it. In the Canadian election, that was the first time sort of when Trump started with the 51st state talk stuff, and then Carney's political party got a ton of advantage from that. So there's like an argument that maybe they're trying to call another snap election to try to get a liberal majority government, because right now they're close to a majority, but they still have a minority government.
Crosshairs posting this on social media. If Governor Carney thinks he's going to make Canada a drop-off port for China to send goods and products into the United States, he is sorely mistaken. China will eat Canada alive, completely devour it. Threatening then, if Canada makes a deal with China, it will immediately be hit with a 100% tariff against all Canadian goods and products coming into the USA. Carney came out of that meeting with China last week with a preliminary deal to lower tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles coming into Canada in return for lower tariffs on canola products for China. And here's what Trump initially said when he was asked for reaction to that deal.
Canada and China have just signed trade deals between the two partners.
Well, that's okay. That's what he should be doing. I mean, it's a good thing for him to sign a trade deal. If you can get a deal with China, you should do that.
So then, in the face of U.S. threats to take over Greenland, Carney gave a speech to the World Economic Forum in Davos on Tuesday saying the old world order is over and urging middle powers to unite. So now an about face and back to the future as well, in the way that you saw him there in that Truth Social post addressing the Prime Minister as Governor Carney. Remember, he used to call Prime Minister Trudeau that when he was talking about Canada becoming a 51st state. It appeared he had a much better relationship with Prime Minister Carney, but not so much anymore. And during Trump's speech in Davos, he responded to Carney's speech saying, Canada lives because of the United States. We then saw Carney double down, responding that at his cabinet retreat there in Quebec City with a speech of his own saying, Canada thrives because we are Canadian. And now,
what does that mean? We thrive because we're Canadian. That means nothing. Trump still has 3 more years. What do you think Canada will look like next year? It's a good question, actually. I don't know. I mean, if these tariffs go on, definitely way worse. Yeah, I don't see what's going to happen out of this. Like, I don't see how Canada is going to repair this relationship now. I think this is going to be very bad. I think this adds to the Alberta independence fuel. I think Alberta independence probably is now more likely, because if Alberta looks at this and says, well, now our biggest trading partner, USA by far, we have this massive tension. Maybe if we're independent Alberta, we can be on a better path to working with USA. But what does it mean for Canada? Just bad stuff. And then the Liberal government will try to frame it as, oh, but this is just necessary hardship right now until we get things going, until we diversify away from USA. Like that's ever going to fully happen. It can happen a little, but give me a break. Any diversification gain you're going to get is going to be totally offset by having a negative relationship with the US. Like, you're never going to be able to make that up in the aggregate. So Carney, I think, is making like basically the number one mistake you can't make as a Canadian leader right now. So I mean, I guess I understand it because lots of Canadians are brainwashed, but his approval rating should be like 20% right now, but it's not.
This
interesting that in Davos, President Trump called him Mark, not Mark.
Alberta and Saskatchewan still part of Canada. I don't know. Well, Alberta, yeah, I don't know. Saskatchewan, I think the fervor, like Alberta having its own country is, I think, way more viable than Saskatchewan. If Saskatchewan did something like that, I think they would try to become part of Alberta. Because if Saskatchewan's its own country, I I mean, technically it would be big enough, but man, that'd be tough. So I think for Saskatchewan's sake, probably the best move would be, if they did that, to go with Alberta, because you'd have a little bit more negotiating power, I think. I don't know if Alberta would want that. I don't know. But Alberta probably would. Saskatchewan's like a natural ally of Alberta. Epstein's definition of insanity. Einstein. Yeah, exactly. I know. You're right. That's how I feel. The libs are crazy, man. It's just nuts. Like, I think there are a lot of people in Canada that would rather be in poverty than admit that they like want to work with Trump. I don't even think that's like controversial to say at this point. I think a lot of maybe, but I don't know. People don't get it. They don't care that Canada is so dependent on USA. They just do not care about that.
Carney, now Prime Minister Carney, now we're seeing in that post, as you noted, Governor. We heard from the business panel just a few moments ago. Let's talk about the impact on Canadian trade relations going forward. What do we know about that?
So it's worth pointing out that Canada-China deal, that wasn't set in stone anyway. That was always a preliminary agreement.
If anyone wants to call in, by the way, you can call into the show. I guess I could put a link here. If you want to call in right there on screen, I'll also pin that message in YouTube.
And while farmers in this country were widely happy about it, we know there were others who were not. So Ontario Premier Doug Ford came out saying, auto workers would be negatively affected by this, even calling for a boycott of Chinese EVs. So we don't know what changes would have been made to that deal anyway, but there are bigger fish to fry, of course, and we're talking about CUSMA renegotiations, USMCA. We already heard U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick earlier this week on Thursday against all
Canadian. Back to this tweet here. If Canada makes a deal with China, oh my gosh, man. What the hell? I would love to get someone on the stream to call in that is like pro Carney. It's very interesting on YouTube how these pro Carney people, they're not really that vocal. There's one channel, I think it's called Planet D, that I saw. There's Laura Babcock, but she kind of just does more of an interview show. It's very, I think, suspect that a lot of these pro Carney people just hide behind like TikTok accounts. Like there's no long form, even TikTokers. There's almost no big liberal content creators. There's some on X, but some of them should grow a freaking pair of what, and actually put their ideas out there. It's actually pathetic. At least American leftists, they have like opinions and they debate and stuff like that. For not maybe as much as the right, because they don't, but there's David Pakman, there's Kyle Kulinski, there's what's that guy's name? Brian Tyler Cohen. There's Midas Touch. There's a ton of American leftists that aren't afraid to share their point of view. In Canada, that's not the case at all.
Been made to that deal anyway, but there are bigger fish to fry, of course, and we're talking about CUSMA renegotiations, USMCA. We already heard U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick earlier this week on Thursday in an interview with Bloomberg comment on that deal, saying that this deal may jeopardize CUSMA renegotiations.
Then the provincial government will be forced into negotiations with the federal government. You were saying like if Alberta leaves, if the negotiations fail, Alberta or Saskatchewan can get foreign countries to recognize them as independent by de facto. Alberta. Yeah, I think I've heard about that recently. Like USA has already, I think, said that we would recognize Alberta. Yeah, you said that in your next. U.S. recognizing either Alberta or Saskatchewan as a sovereign. Yeah, totally. And I think they would. I don't, especially if the Trump administration, if it's in the next 3 years. They probably would. They would. I believe that they would.
Canada has never expressed to the world that they have the best deal, the second best deal in the world. The best deal in the world is Mexico, because remember, they have USMCA, which means 85% of the Canadian economy comes into the United States for zero. And there he is complaining that he's going to go to China and improve it. What's he going to do? China's delighted to sell to him. But do you think China's going to open their economy to accept exports from Canada?
We've been told that Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc is still scheduled for those CUSMA renegotiation talks. You should be going to Washington soon as planned, but now we'll wait and see what happens.
All right. Thanks so much for this, Linda. And so for a closer look at what this could mean, we're now joined by Fen Osler-Hampson. He's a professor of international affairs at Carleton University, joining us from Ottawa this morning. Thanks for talking to us today.
Great to be with you, Marianne.
We just heard Linda's report. Quite the shift in tone and message from President Trump. What do you think is behind that?
Well, there's that expression, here we go again. President Trump may see his 100% tariff threat as a warning shot, but I think it rests on a fundamental misunderstanding of what has actually happened between Canada and China. There's no free trade deal that's been signed. Or
like, come on, bro. Like, Trump misunderstands. Like, what the fuck? You don't think, first of all, Trump is not an idiot. These people talk about Trump like he's an idiot. Number two, the deal with China and Canada was like announced 5 days ago. You don't think somebody in the cabinet of the most powerful country on earth is going to understand the deal, like pretty much, or the potential deal exactly, and then report that to the president? Oh, Trump fundamentally misunderstands. Are you kidding? This is what passes for political analysis? Are you joking, dude?
What do you think is behind that?
Well, there's that expression, here we go again. President Trump may see his 100% tariff threat as a warning shot, but I think it rests on a fundamental misunderstanding of what has actually happened between Canada and China.
That's crazy, man. This is all that CBC does. Imagine, of course, Trump's going to have problems with Canada. It's actually rational for Trump to have an issue with Canada all day long. Like, how did all these people get into power? The political power structure in Canada is ran by leftist activists. I think these people have probably been leftist their entire lives, and they're finally seeing real resistance in the form of like a threat, because before the resistance or whatever was just the country was doing bad, but you kind of only feel that as like a drip, 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 like it just slowly gets worse and worse. Now they're seeing a real sort of foe, but they're not going to change their minds.
There's no free trade deal that's been signed or even being considered right now.
TikTok, all China garbage. I use TikTok. Maybe I shouldn't, but because I used to not use it. But the thing I like about TikTok is if you put a video on TikTok, you actually get a chance to have it seen. YouTube is good too. This is like a totally different subject, but the reason I don't like X, like Elon Musk platform, I like it for the free speech. It's very difficult to break through on X. Like, does anyone here use Twitter, X? Like, at least on TikTok, if you make a video, I think Instagram has changed their algorithm. I think they're a little bit better now. I think they maybe have copied TikTok. I'm just guessing, but on X, like, does anyone ever post on X? your tweet will get like 4 views. You're like, what the hell's the point of this then? So I think TikTok was the first one to figure out that you kind of give everybody a chance with the video. Like, I think they show it to around 200 people pretty much all the time. And then if people do like that video, it'll get pushed out. So I think TikTok was the first to make that kind of formula popular, and I think it's the best formula, because then you're not just seeing, like, if you go on Twitter, it's the same 100 accounts dominating the discourse. It's like Elon Musk, cat turd, and I like cat turd, but Yeah, that's my problem with X. I think TikTok has figured that out, but are they spying on us? I don't probably. I don't know. I would love to debate a liberal left wing, but they are too easily offended. And then they run and hide. But sure, would love to debate them. I know, but there are exceptions. It's just, yeah, most of them, yes, for sure. And then most of them just shout in your face and call you a fascist, and they just hide behind that as like an intellectual shield. You know, it's such a like the ultimate cope. If I can just call this person a fascist, then I don't have to actually contend with what they're saying.
The agreement that we signed with the Chinese simply restored the pre-tariff war status quo on select goods like canola and EVs. Important to bear in mind.
Okay, though, I don't think Trump would have a problem with the deal. They're missing the point. It's the speech that CARNEY gave humiliating Trump at Davos. What is Trump going to think about that? Trump isn't like the leader of a mid-tier country. You don't do that. You don't rip on the most powerful country. It's so stupid. Like, I mean, I don't even know what an analogy would be, but it'd be like if you were in prison, you wouldn't make a speech just like ripping the most powerful gang. That would go very poorly for you, or the most powerful person. What do you think is going to happen in that scenario when you just roast the most powerful country in front of everybody and in a friendly environment? It's not like Carney went and did that at a neutral meeting ground, like maybe a political debate on some sort of leadership debate, or it's not like Carney did that in Alberta or something. He did that in the most friendly area possible, so we get all the claps. And then, yeah.
Going tariffs, 15% Chinese on Canadian canola, seed, and pork, 6% Canadian on Chinese EVs that are going to be coming into Canada. Marianne, that's not free trade. Anything but. And Trump's hypocrisy and the statement we just heard from his Secretary of Commerce is stunning. It's only a couple of months ago that the United States signed its own deal with China to lower tariffs on Chinese goods.
Do these people want Canada, again, to be in poverty? I'm going to go back and play this clip that he's talking about. What did Lutnick say that was wrong?
Canada has
This is the coward, or the Commerce Secretary.
never
I called him a coward. I didn't mean to, but the Commerce Secretary, Commerce Howard.
Canada has never expressed to the world that they have the best deal, the second best deal in the world. The best deal in the world is Mexico, because remember, they have USMCA, which means 85% of the Canadian economy comes into the United States for zero. And there he is complaining that he's going to go to China and improve it. What's he going to do? China's delighted to sell to him. But do you think China's going to open their economy to accept exports from Canada?
We've been told that Canada-U.S. trade.
What was wrong with that statement?
Read as a warning shot, but I think it rests on a fundamental misunderstanding of what is actually happening. The pre-tariff war status quo on select goods like canola and EVs. Important to bear in mind, there's still.
Yeah, Caleb, I think this is all strengthening the separation argument for Alberta.
Ongoing tariffs, 15% Chinese on Canadian canola, seed, and pork, 6% Canadian on Chinese EVs that are going to be coming into Canada. Marianne, that's not free trade. Anything but. And Trump's hypocrisy and the statement we just heard from his Secretary of Commerce is stunning. It's only a couple of months ago that the United States signed its own deal with China to lower tariffs on Chinese goods in exchange for the Chinese being allowed to import semiconductors and other things that they want to buy from the Americans. So I think it's important.
Yeah, which one of the allies actually acts like a friend? What do you think? Good question. Saudi Arabia, I'd say, is probably lately, at least, not always, for sure. Not always. That's a bad example, but lately, yes. What do you think? Who would be one? I mean, Argentina, but like that's such a kind of an up and comer. It's incredible, yeah. They do want in poverty. Well, they love to use the offended racist word salad, totally. 80 years living under the U.S. umbrella of protection and never built a way to guarantee your defense. Well, the guarantee of defense was don't piss off the Americans. Now we're screwing that up.
Important to push back and perhaps quietly point out that we're doing exactly the same thing the Americans are doing to lower trade tensions with China.
So then how do you think this will impact CUSMA negotiations?
Well, it's obviously going to affect the tone of those negotiations. I think we should be under no illusions. They're going to be playing hardball. They're going to be taking a run at us on autos.
Like and subscribe, please. Trying to get to 1,000 subs, which would be sick. I don't trust any of them. Globalist grifters.
On supply management, on our digital policies. But it's going to be pretty rough going. But you know, I think, you know, these tensions can probably be.
Yeah, I definitely think globalism is just a massive scam. It only really benefits like the ruling parties. There was maybe a point in history when you needed more integration, like with all these countries, but the world adapts. I definitely think I'm way more in favor of populism and nationalism right now. I think that's what the world needs. I mean, you could argue at different times, depending, like maybe post World War II, probably the globalism stuff did make sense. It's like, okay, what the hell? We can't be getting into these world wars every 30 years or whatever, but I definitely think that's run its course.
Eventually lowered. I think what's driving.
I'm going to do, Henry, a stream after this on Alberta independence again.
Donald Trump's irritation is, as was noted by Linda a few moments ago, is the speech that Prime Minister Carney gave at Davos about the ruptured global order. Now, he didn't single out the United States in those comments, but it was pretty clear who the message was directed at, and the president has taken umbrage at it.
So then what next then? Because this is not the first time we've heard President Trump direct threats at Canada or other countries for that matter. We've only got a minute left, but just want to ask you.
Okay, there's a minute left here. I'll play it.
What can Canada do then to avoid potentially a much more significant trade war with the United States moving forward?
Well, I think we don't rise to the bait. You know, we keep our heads down. At the end of the day, it's Americans who are going to have to put the guardrails around their president, including Congress, including the 32 states for which Canada is their most important trading partner. It's domestic politics in the United States that ultimately are going to have to rein in this president. I think we have to recognize we don't have a whole lot of leverage there.
We'll leave it there. Thank you so much for your time and for your insight. Professor of International Affairs at Carleton University, Ben Osler-Hampson. Thanks again.
Brutal. Okay, I'm going to just do this. This is Carney meeting with Xi in China. Then I got to use the washroom. I'll be right back.
请坐。
Please have a seat. Excellencies, please put on the earpiece for the simultaneous interpretation. Thank you.
Let's begin the meeting. Prime Minister CARNEY, welcome to China. And I welcome this great ministerial delegation. I am very pleased to meet you again. Last October, we met in Gyeongju, the Republic of Korea. It was a very good meeting. That meeting, I believe, marked a turnaround in the China-Canada relations and placed it on an upward trajectory. In the past couple of months, the agencies of our two countries have engaged in deep discussions on resuming and restarting cooperation across the board and produced positive results. I am heartened by the progress. This is your first visit to China as Prime Minister, and the first visit to China by a Canadian Prime Minister in more than 8 years. A healthy and stable China-Canada relationship serves the common interest of our two countries. It is also good for the peace, stability, and prosperity of the world. I am ready to continue working with you with a sense of responsibility for the history, for the people, and for the world, to further advance the relationship in a positive direction and bring it on a track of healthy, steady, and sustainable development for the benefit of the people of both countries. Thank you, Prime Minister.
Thank you, President Xi.
Thank you,
for your hospitality.
President Xi.
For the warm welcome that's been extended to this delegation, and for the opportunity that our partnership brings to both our peoples, and I would suggest as well to the world. Lorsque nous sommes.
Okay, here's this video titled "Imposing 100% tariffs on Canada would be too costly for U.S. consumers." Expert. Oh, really? I mean, U.S. has options. They can just buy product elsewhere. That's just very cute. Like, this wouldn't drive Canada's economy into like total rubble. Yes, it would rise. The prices in America would go up for a lot of things, but America could actually figure out a way around this. Canada can't. If this actually became like a permanent policy, we would, I mean, people in Canada would literally die because this would totally cripple us. A lot of people would die. Like, this has to be fixed.
Hampson, Professor of International Affairs, Carleton University, joins us now. Sir, good evening and thanks for your
listen to this dummy here.
time.
Good evening, actually.
So another day, another tariff threat from President Donald Trump, and that 2 days after he said it was okay for Canada to have a deal with China. What is your assessment?
Do these people not get it? Or are they just pretending not to get it? It's the speech. What changed was the speech in Davos. Holy crap, man. Oh my gosh. It's like, I wish they were making better points because then it would be more interesting YouTube stream. It's the speech. Are we all supposed to pretend that didn't happen? What the fuck, man? Can we get some new hosts on CTV and everywhere in Canada? Like, that's going to at least try to understand reality?
Of this threat.
Just after he said it was a fine thing that Canada is working. What changed? What possibly could have changed?
Now, what is your assessment of this threat and the flip-flop from the president?
Well, what's the expression, here we go again? Trump is dressing up a tariff relief arrangement between Canada and China as a major trade deal, which it isn't, to justify.
Yeah, that's fair. It's true. The fact that U.S. has the Second Amendment helps a lot. It keeps the government from becoming too tyrannical. Absolutely. It's ruptured because the globalist WEF bullies became the bullied. Admit it. Yep.
A political tantrum because our prime minister played David against his Goliath at Davos. It's not a legal complaint. It's a political one driven by Trump's peak. But I think, there's a bigger question here, Akshay, and, where is Trump headed with this? He's not going to impose 100% tariffs on Canada because that's going to cost American consumers heavily. Just think what that will do to the price of gasoline. We supply something like 40% of oil to the United States. He's not going to do that. But directionally, and he said this in his tweet, he is deeply worried about Canada and Mexico becoming conduits for cheap Chinese goods entering the United States.
Right.
And as you noted, we're about to enter USMCA renewal talks, and we're going to come under enormous pressure to impose the same level of tariffs as the U.S. on China and other U.S. trading partners as the price for keeping some version of CUSMA or the USMCA intact.
I'm so glad you bring CUSMA up because that was going to be my next question to you. Looking at the tensions here in the past few days, especially whether it was the Prime Minister's speech at Davos and Trump saying that Canada lives because of the US, the Prime Minister responding to that. Then, as we know, he rescinded the invite on the Board of Peace for Canada, so on and so forth. So much is going on. How does this really play in terms of negotiations with CUSMA? Because it's the same deal that this president had okayed and signed on in his previous term and now says that it's not a good deal.
Well, actually, that's a great question. And the Prime Minister's strategy has been to strengthen our hand at the bargaining table by sending a message to the Trump administration that Canada has other dance partners out there, one of them being China, potentially. But I think where this is going to go is that Trump is going to put a grand bargain in front of us, and that is to be inside the American tariff wall or outside of it. And that, as I said earlier, is really going to put
hello, Dan. How are you? I changed the
our prime minister in a very difficult position because he is under enormous pressure already from the business community to do a deal with Trump. 75% of our trade is with the United States. We know which way they're going to jump if we're presented with what is, to all intents and purposes, being inside a North American customs union or outside of it. They're worried about losing access to the U.S. market. So yes, we're going to continue with talks, but Trump, I think, is sending a signal here that we're going to have to run a gauntlet, and he's trying to take away that trade diversification card from the Prime Minister.
Fen, I have just about 30 seconds. Can you also highlight the hypocrisy in all of this? Because we know that Trump is expected to visit China on his own. And when heads up...
Man, that's like a leader. Why? Don't ask it like that. Can you highlight all the hypocrisy? I changed, by the way, the title and stuff. Where are the CARNEY supporters in Canada? So maybe I'll get some CARNEY supporter to come in and debate me on this. I kind of doubt it, but we'll see if that works.
Of state meet, well, there are some deals that are signed. So,
well, the hypocrisy here, you're absolutely right, is stunning. I mean, just months ago, Trump struck his own understanding.
I'm good.
With Beijing that brought down those tariffs that both countries had applied against each other.
Right.
As you pointed out, he's going to Beijing. He's already said he won the trade war with China. So, it's pretty rich for him to say, we've eased our tariffs on China and then raking us over the coals for essentially taking us back to the status quo ante before we got into a trade war with China.
Right. Okay, we'll have to leave it at that tonight. Fen Hampson, enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for your time.
My
And Prime Minister Mark Carney, who has avoided reporters' questions for days, has posted a video on X about Canada's response to threats from abroad.
With our economy under threat from abroad, Canadians have made a choice.
We'll watch this right now. We'll watch the full version of this. Actually, I'll go to this. Hey, when you say this, you can hear me. Am I coming in louder than the videos I'm playing? Because I tried to kind of fix that before, but maybe if I sit back, because I'm using a new streaming software. But if I go to Carney here. Is it just a 2-minute video? 50 cents. What the heck? Oh, this one. Oh, it's only 1 minute? And they did it in French. Nous achetons. I thought it was like 5 minutes. We'll watch this video here. Oh, I'm on the wrong thing. There we go.
With our economy under threat from abroad, Canadians have made a choice to focus on what we can control. You are.
Oh man, that's incredible. Yeah, I did see this. Okay, when he says that here, Canadians have made a choice. And now it's loading. To control what we can control.
We can control.
Okay, what we can control is not going to Davos and provoking America. This is all such garbage. Under threat with our economy. So he starts the whole thing off by just continuing his defiant, antagonistic stance.
With our economy under threat from abroad, Canadians have made a choice.
No, I didn't choose this. Elbows up dummies made a choice, maybe.
To focus on what we can control.
That's so crazy, man. You can control not doing what you did. Are you trying to be the hero? Again, I actually think Carney was not doing that bad of a job until this speech. Like, not a good job, but I thought he was a little better than Trudeau just because he could talk. Maybe he could the Canadian stock market has been up. So I was like, maybe he's attracting investment. Now he's actually, I think, worse than Trudeau because I don't think Trudeau's smart enough to go to Davos and do this because Trudeau can't talk. He would just went there and been like, I don't like Trump because he doesn't like LGBT that much.
You are choosing to put your hard-earned dollars behind Canadian businesses and Canadian workers. Canada's new government is doing the same with our new Buy Canadian policy.
Oh, wow. A lot of people too on X I saw were saying it's always Buy Canadian. It's never Hire Canadian. Buy Canadian policy. So now we get to be like economic nationalists just because it's anti-Trump. Although I don't really think any of this is going to work. I do not trust it. No one voted for China to sell out Canada. No one voted for Carney to sell out Canada to China. Totally. What do you think NATO or the UN will do if the Trump takes Cuba and annexes? Well, I don't think Canada's I still firmly believe that is pretty unrealistic that in any sort of military way, Canada will be taken by USA for a bunch of reasons. But one, that would be so unpopular in USA if it was done like in a hostile way. That wouldn't I don't think I even think Trump's base would be like, what are we doing here? But there's a lot of economic pain Canada can suffer that potentially could be to the benefit of USA, maybe just to get more power. I don't know. We'll see what happens here, but maybe there's like a situation, probably the worst case scenario for Canada, where America gets some sort of more mineral rights or something, and as an exchange kind of backs off on Canada. I don't know what will come of this. No, you're perfect. Okay, thank you. A lot of leftist tears. Yeah, you sound like okay, come on, let's go. W Stackhouse, thank you for the kind words. You sound like a smart person. Come debate me then, because I have this link here I'll put in chat. So I think we're going to get a debater, everybody. I think W Stackhouse welcome to the show, is about to come and debate and tell everybody how great Mark Carney is. So let's all get a round of applause for W. Stackhouse. I think he's going to come up right away, unless he's a coward. Unless he's a coward, which we all know he's not, right, W. Stackhouse? Unless W. Stackhouse is a coward baby, I think he's right about to come on to my stream. Doesn't even need to show his face. You can just do audio. And he's about to tell me why I'm an effing moron. So let's hear it. W. Stackhouse, let's go, buddy. We're waiting on you, W. Just one click. You don't got to sign up. You just hop on stream and tell me why I'm an effing moron. And if not, I got to say, you're probably a little coward, probably a little insecure coward baby. But I wouldn't say that because you're about to hop on my stream and tell us why I'm an effing moron and why you like Carney. I think we all are just waiting. W. Stackhouse. Prove it. I don't think you're a coward, but it's not looking great. Still waiting. Carney is a super I don't think this guy's coming on stream, but this is the average liberal supporter. They don't even know how to talk. They don't even care or know what's happening in the world. They just parrot talking points they heard from the TV or TikTok or whatever. W. Stackhouse. This actually truly is the average liberal voter in this country. It's just this complete devoid, doesn't give a shit, elbows up, doesn't care that Canada has a bad economy. Probably is broke. Like he's probably just some broke moron. Carney is a super trader. It wouldn't require the military. What do you mean? Just like economic coercion or something? Exactly. Anyway, I'll get through some more chats, but it's looking like this guy here, W. Stackhouse, is a coward baby. Unfortunate for you, W. Stackhouse, that you're a coward baby. That sucks for you. Canada will collapse if tariffs go to 100. Yeah, that'll be like crazy. They probably will collapse. Like people will die, literally. Because people will be driven into crazy poverty. If that becomes like a permanent policy, Canadians will die. Exactly. We shouldn't be sending. Because like every little bit, this is a line from The Big Short, the movie. I think it's like every percentage point unemployment goes up, 40,000 people die. I think that's what it is. But that's America too. But that is true. Like if the economy stinks, people die. American national security is being compromised. Okay, I'm going to get to this video, but I'll come back to these chats because I got quite a few here.
We're on a mission to build big, from millions of homes that will improve affordability, to major projects that will transform our economy, to the new military hardware that will protect Canadians and our sovereignty. We will build big with Canadian materials, Canadian steel, aluminum, and lumber, with Canadian technology and with Canadian workers. We can't control what other nations do. We can be our own best customer. We'll buy Canadian, we'll build Canadian. And together, we will build Canada strong.
And what is he staring to the camera like a tough guy at the end? I mean, the last fine, like whatever. If out of context, this last 40 seconds is the way we should have been running the country for the last 10 years. But it wasn't this. It was Canada sucks. Canada stinks. Our ancestors are evil. We ruined the Indigenous people's lives. Gay people are amazing. We're sorry for all these things in the past. Like this would have been a better message the last 10 years, this last 40 seconds. We'd be in a better place with some of this morale boost. And then look at this mean mug in the camera.
We'll build Canada strong.
Oh, man. That's funny. Okay, I'm going to get back to this. This video, CTV here. I'll get to some chats too.
And Prime Minister Mark Carney, who
Remember
has
to like and subscribe, please. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers.
avoided reporters' questions for days, has posted a video on X about
Leftists just call people names and hide totally.
Canada's response.
Like W. Stackhouse. I doubt he's even in the chat anymore. Liberals attack with feelings. They don't know facts or anything else. A lot of them for sure, especially in Canada, but everywhere. But yes, that is a trend, I would say, for sure. Say the word Trump and they get triggered like crazy. If you say Trump in downtown Toronto, a liberal probably will like spit their coffee out and start crying.
To threats from abroad.
With our economy under threat from abroad, Canadians have made a choice to focus on what we can control.
Again, I just went over this, but you can control not trolling Trump at Davos.
You are choosing to put your hard-earned dollars behind Canadian businesses and Canadian workers.
And the immigrant beaver Hoddess, thank you for chatting. I don't think it's my first time I've seen you in the chat. Thank you for chatting. Liberals in Canada only watch CBC and CNN and are all fueled by TDS totally.
Canada's new government is doing the same with our new Buy Canadian policy. We're on a mission to build big.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, I just talked about this, but it would be crazy. Especially like on a permanent basis, Canada would be so fucked.
From millions of homes that will improve affordability, to major projects that will transform our economy, to the new military hardware that will protect Canadians and our sovereignty.
And meantime, some of Canada's premiers are showing their support for the Prime Minister on social media. From BC Premier.
Oh my God. What are we doing? What is the again, people I think would rather be in poverty than work with Trump.
David Eby, quote, "You're on the right path, Mark. Canada must stand on our..."
Yeah, this is the plebs' new word, right? The El Bozos. We'll see if that catches on. I've seen the pleb talk about this.
Own 2 feet. British Columbia has your back. As for Trump saying the last thing the world needs is to have China.
I mean, I don't know. I doubt it. I bet, are you talking about the W Stackhouse? I bet you that guy is like, I mean, who knows, but I bet you that person's like 40. Like these liberals, there's a lot of people like that. That'd be my guess. Just some random 40-year-old. You're an idiot.
Take over Canada. Manitoba's premier had this response. Canada will never be taken over. Not by China, not by Trump. We will always be the true north, strong and free. With me
and broke and in poverty. Like, what is so stupid? We'll always be the true north, strong and free.
Canada's a trading nation. 2/3 of our economy depends.
Manitoba's premier had this response. Canada will never be taken over. Not by
Pierre Poilievre, I'm going to make my take on Poilievre after a little bit. I'll play more of the video, but he should be taking advantage of this. By the way, in the chat, let me know, do you like Poilievre or do you think we need a new leader at the top of the Conservatives? Let me know just your thoughts. Either way, it's all good. I'm not going to judge you.
China, not by Trump. We will always be the true north, strong and free. With me now is Matthew Holmes, Executive Vice President and Chief of Public Policy at the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. Thank you very much for being here.
I agree with this. Yeah, U.S. would be sick of this, I think, the Trump derangement.
Matthew, how serious do you think this tariff threat is from Trump?
Well, what we've seen is the tariff threats don't seem to go away, even for the countries that managed to strike deals with the current administration. So, Renee, you really laid it out. Last week, President Trump said it was a good...
I don't know what this means. Outwitted by a rock? Block me like a libtardian? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know who you're even referencing there. Canadian exports beginning to shift away from USA. Look elsewhere. I mean, I'm fine with a little bit of that, but it's not going to be full. Like something like 75% of our exports go to USA. Again, like it depends where you look, but probably at the low end, 60, probably 75 I've heard lately. So yes, you can diversify a little, but you're never going to make that up. Like if you have a bad relationship with USA, that outweighs by far any gain you can make with other countries. Like you're going to take a bigger hit by having a poor relationship with USA, even if you do all this amazing diversification everywhere else. USA is by far the biggest game, and it always will be, even if Canada does diversify.
A good thing that Canada and China were talking about trade. This week, he doesn't think the same, and we'll see what next week brings. But I think at this point, it's hard to really predict.
Yeah, you never know when Trump is going to change his mind about
Republic of Alberta, hello.
Something. So if these tariffs do go ahead, let's assume they will for this, what sectors in Canada would feel the impact first?
Well, Canada's a trading nation. 2/3 of our economy depend on import-export trade. And so...
Ivan, come debate me, bro. Let's go, Ivan. Ivan. I don't even know what the talking points you're referring to. Because I got all original thoughts. Everything I say is just a total gem of genius. Stop blathering. Ivan, come debate me, brother. Ivan. Come tell us how smart CARNEY is. The message is pinned. The link to hop into the chat is pinned. I think we're going to get a debater here, guys. Ivan. Printing more money out of thin air will double inflation, totally.
So if there were suddenly a holistic across-the-board tariff in place, it would have a fairly significant impact on our economy. About 75% of our exports go to the United States. And we
holy crap.
We wouldn't stop exporting. They would just be more expensive, and they would be largely more expensive for the American consumer.
Oh, man. And no, but it wouldn't be, because Americans would just choose other places. Not for every product, but the ones they can. Canadian jobs would just be totally hosed. This guy has to understand that, right?
Expensive, and they would be largely more expensive for the American consumer and American businesses. So, I mean, tariffs are ultimately a tax. They're a tax on the American people. And so even if he had the legal mechanism in place to put in place that sort of immediate tariff across the board, yes, it would impact our businesses. Yes.
He does have mechanism to do that. What are you talking about?
It would be a pretty serious blow to our economy.
It'd be like the serious blow to the economy. It would be so bad.
But it would likely also hurt quite a bit on the American side of the border. And that's the message.
It would, but it would be so disproportionately bad for us. Americans have options. We don't.
I think the current Canadian government is making, and many businesses are making on both sides of the border, that we have an integrated economy. We have supply chains that rely on both parts of that border working and being porous and allowing the movement of people and goods to continue. And if that stops, or if that gets harder.
We got it, bro. This is an argument for a year ago when this first started. We know the benefits of trade. We've been over this, but that we're dealing with a different reality when Trump is clearly not afraid to slap tariffs on people.
And if that stops, or if that gets harder or more expensive, the costs will be borne on both sides of the border.
The U.S. is pursuing its own deals with China. So why do you think Canada's trade deal is an issue for the U.S.?
Well, you're quite right. Just this past summer, China and the United States struck a deal between certain critical minerals that China needs for some of its supply chain, and the chips that the United States is producing, the semiconductors that China needs for other products in advanced manufacturing. So,
yeah, okay. Riley Freeman, Pierre is great. Okay, interesting. Thanks for sharing that take. The U.S. buys 85. Yeah, it is pure insanity. It is so crazy. Yeah, do you mean buy Canadian, made by their replacements? Like, you mean the people that are making it are not from Canada? I think that's what you mean. That's so funny. Because we could win a war, the U.S. Are you talking about Canada would win a war versus U.S.? Is that what you mean?
They have struck a deal themselves with China recently. This is very much along similar lines. It's very discreet. It's very precision oriented towards.
Pierre is exactly what we need.
In Canada's case, seafood, agricultural products like canola seed, and on the other side, Chinese EV tariffs, and really what we call a tariff rate quota.
We do. Okay, I think Pierre Poilievre should just say right now, if I become prime minister of Canada, I'll fix the relationship with Trump. I'll make America love us again, and we'll work together. The fact that Pierre doesn't say that to me, he doesn't seem very serious about winning. I think that's like the ultimate political layup. Just say that, because you don't even need to prove it. Because then by the time you win, then you have to back it up. But in campaign mode, why not just make a sweeping declaration? If you're Pierre Poilievre, I'll fix the relationship with Trump. He will love me. We'll love him. We'll all be friends again and whatever. But it's like they're afraid of certain liberal groups in Ontario that are going to be like, oh, well, you're a traitor, stuff like that. I don't know why Poilievre politically doesn't just say that. You don't even need to say that. Like, you don't need to say we love, you could even like have one caveat in there being like, we're never going to be the 51st state, blah, 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 blah. But when I get in, we're going to have a better relationship with America. But I don't know why he doesn't say that, Pierre. On domestic policy, I think he's totally right. But on the foreign like that, to me, is such a layup politically. It would help him in the polls, in my opinion, a ton, because it would be very motivating for like a whole other voting block of people that don't think what Canada is doing with the US right now is cute or funny.
Small amount of vehicles overall that are being allowed in, and for the Canadian consumer, a lot of those are probably just going to be Teslas that happen to be made in China, for example. So I don't think it really will be that far-ranging or that proportionate compared to the incredible range that the USMCA or CUSMA has. I mean, every product that we sell to the United States just about comes under the CUSMA deal.
Yo, daddy. Yep, that's me. Come debate me, yo, daddy. Jeez, that your hair. You need a haircut. I need a haircut too.
Right now.
Yeah, although, I mean, the hair is kind of cool, I will say. And the cowboy hat's kind of cool as well, but.
Right now, we'll have to leave it there. Matthew Holmes, Executive Vice President and Chief of Public Policy at the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you, Renee.
This is incredible. So like these videos on the Trump's recent statement, like CTV, look, these videos on this announcement of 100% tariffs are getting crazy views. I saw one that had like from CTV hundreds of thousands that I never played yet. I'll try to find it here. Yeah, this one, 168K. That's pretty good, I think, for CTV.
We begin with
Trump threatens Canada with 100% tariffs over deal with China.
We begin with some breaking news this morning. U.S. President Donald Trump is threatening to impose a 100% tariff on all Canadian goods entering the United States. In a post on social media, he says if Governor Carney thinks he is going to make Canada drop-off port for China to send goods and products into the United States, he is sorely mistaken. China will eat Canada alive, completely devour it, including the destruction of their businesses, social fabric, and general way of life. If Canada makes a deal with China, it will immediately be hit with a 100% tariff against all Canadian goods and products coming into the USA. This post...
Man, that is still, I mean, I've shown this post a few times now, but wow.
Comes just over a week after Trump said this about the Canada-China agreement.
If you can get a deal with China, you should do that.
This new threat comes as a review is coming up into the North American trilateral trade deal.
Thank you for subscribing, Nottingham. I doubt whether it's Pierre or anyone else will matter. Dude, I'm right there with you. There's a lot of brainwashed libs in the country. It sounds like Republic of Alberta. I'm going to assume that you're pro-Alberta independence with that name and that picture. I think you've been in the chat before, though. So I'm going to do a stream later on the Alberta independence thing again. Just kind of a general overview. But I'm hoping I can get at least one Carney supporter on here to come debate me. Again, I don't even, like, we don't even need to scream at each other. I don't even care. If you just want to be, like, respectful and have a conversation about it, I'm totally cool with that. That's how I'd prefer it. Because I don't understand why Canada thinks what Carney is doing right now is like at all smart. This makes no sense. The only argument you could say for it is the liberals are cynically trying to get a majority government. So they're going to troll America. America's going to respond. They're going to do their elbows up crap again. That's the only thing I think you could say.
Known as Kuzma. Let's now bring in CTV News political commentator Scott Reed. Morning, Scott. Good to see you.
Morning.
Oh, this guy, man. This guy's pure TDS.
So an interesting turn of events here after Trump just last week said Canada should.
I did a video on this guy back like quite a while ago now, but this guy was saying he was very much in favor of that hiking ban. Don't hike in the woods. You're going to set a forest fire just by your sneaker touching a twig.
Indeed, go ahead and make the deal with China. Are you surprised by this response from Trump? And why do you think he changed his mind here?
I'd like to say I'm terribly surprised, but I'm not. I mean, this is sort of standard Donald Trump reliability. Donald Trump's
totally Odino. I agree. Thank you for chatting.
Signature consistency and predictability of thought. Look, the challenge we face is that Donald Trump is clearly in an erratic phase right now. And I think it is important to put these comments about Canada in the context of,
yeah, Fight for Canada channel put out a good video today. Is that on like Alberta or just on Canada? Yeah.
Donald Trump's week. He's under severe pressure at home. His approval ratings are falling steeply. He had a humiliating reversal on the world stage at Davos over Greenland. He's being repudiated around the world. Keir Starmer, Prince Harry, other leaders for his incredibly ignorant and disrespectful comments about 9/11, Afghanistan, and the contributions of other NATO allies.
See, what is Trump supposed to think if he ever turned on Canadian news and just hears constant Trump derangement syndrome? What are we doing? Can we get some people that actually care about the country on these networks that don't want to drive everybody into poverty? Maybe your life is fine. Maybe you're like a millionaire or close to it and you're all chill. But what are you doing antagonizing America? The rest of us have to freaking live our lives, try to survive.
He's being repudiated around the world. Keir Starmer, Prince Harry, other leaders for his...
Joe Indy, hello. Thank you for chatting.
His incredibly ignorant and disrespectful comments about 9/11, Afghanistan, and the contributions of other NATO allies. Who, like Canada, we lost 157 troops in that, coming in an Article 5 invocation to the support of the United States. Donald Trump is like a metal plate in a microwave. He is just snapping and lighting up and firing in all directions these days. And so it is
like one of those walking protests, those pro-Canada protests, or what do you? I don't know exactly what you're talking about, to be honest.
Difficult, as serious as this is, this threat, is difficult to know how serious you need to take it.
Well, with that said, how likely do you think Carney is to backtrack on the deal?
I don't know if he'll backtrack. That would be very difficult. But I think in some ways this validates the wisdom of trying to get that deal, and that it obviously provides him with some leverage. Trump is telecasting. He is telegraphing that he is bothered by it, even if he wasn't at first instance, even if he didn't have the shrewdness to recognize at the time that this does provide.
You just have to keep insulting Trump. It's not just a normal guy you're insulting. This is the president of the United States. What are we doing, man? This is so pathetic.
Some ballast for Canada.
Again, if this was a right wing, if the shoe was on the other foot and this was like a right wing network and they were trolling the left wing, like say it was Barack Obama, I would say the same thing. If maybe the Rebel News was, or some right-wing channel in Canada, whatever it is, Moose on the Loose, anybody, if they were ripping on the leader of the United States and it was Barack Obama, I would say the same thing. Like, put your partisan crap aside. What are you thinking?
And so I think, what we'll see is the China deal, particularly with respect to EVs, probably becomes something of a bargaining chip in these discussions with the USMCA. This is the first bolt across the bow. Trump likes to brag about the art of the deal and how he huffs and puffs and bullies people and then moves them to a different place. I think by going in and getting this deal.
Oh, yo, daddy. Yeah. I thought maybe you were saying that you were going to maybe come debate me, but yeah, I knew with that cowboy hat, you weren't a liberal. I knew it. I could tell.
Carney has created a chip that he can effectively take off of the table in CUSMA discussions with Trump. And that would be my prediction as to how this unfolds.
Is this hurting Canada's reputation while negotiating?
I don't think it's hurting Canada's reputation. I mean, Canada's reputation right now is,
This is going to be good. This is going to be such Trump derangement syndrome. Has anyone watched this interview yet?
Anything strengthened, people are watching what's happening. They're seeing Trump attack Keir Starmer. I don't think it's hurting Canada's reputation. I mean, Canada's reputation right now is, if anything, strengthened. People are.
What is Canada's reputation, chat? What do you think the reputation is of Canada at this moment?
Is, if anything, strengthened. People are watching what's happening. They're seeing Trump attack Keir Starmer, NATO, obviously Greenland, Denmark. In this suite of posts that he put out 70 posts the night before last in his return from Davos, all over the place. And in that, he's praising the Chinese president. Now he's saying any trucker trade with the Chinese president is evidence of malfeasance. So I don't think that it's Canada's reputation that's risk. I really do think we're watching a president unravel on the world stage. And
oh my gosh, man. Is this your first day? Have you ever seen Trump work at all? Unravel? What part of that is unraveling? Everything that Trump ever does, Venezuela, Greenland, like Trump is going to continue with his style, I would assume, because it continues to work. He makes people go crazy, and then he negotiates from that position of hysteria. How many times does he have to do that? How can these people never figure out the pattern? I'm not saying I have Trump figured out 100%, obviously, but he clearly does this, says things, gets people talking, gets people outraged, and then negotiates from that position. And people like this fall for it every single time. He's unraveling. Holy crap, man.
And to be honest with you, my prediction is he's only going to be more acidic, more attacking, more unpredictable in his postings and his policies as he feels the domestic and international pressure. This is a guy who feels hunted right now. And
man, no, he doesn't. Why would he feel hunted?
His only response is to attack and bite.
It also seems to be getting a little bit personal here with Trump referring to Carney as Governor Carney. What's your take on that?
I'm glad you raised it because it's a very important point. This is the first time that Trump, to my recollection, has referred to Carney as governor.
Okay, this is so annoying. I'll keep playing this, but I'm going to pull something else.
It was a
here.
Denigrating term that he applied to Justin Trudeau. So it's clearly a signal. In many respects, it's probably a response to the Davos speech. Trump reads headlines voraciously. He recognizes that Carney captured something on the international stage, and that in large part it was in response to his erraticism. He's noticing that contrast. He does not appreciate that contrast. He is all ego all the time. And in that sense, there is risk, obviously, for Canada. On the other hand, you do get the sense that Trump's leverage over others is starting to diminish. Yes, we're going to have to punch our way through negotiations with him, but increasingly, this looks like.
And these people live in a fairy tale. Like, look at this. This is GDP per capita of the U.S. and Canada. I brought this up before on my channel. Look how much this changed. Like, we used to be pretty close to America, and I guess I was a child during this time, but look at this, like around the financial crisis. I mean, I know USA had a big dip downward with the housing crisis and stuff, but even like before, Canada was never that far behind America, really. And I don't think we had this, I'm sure we wouldn't have had this crazy hostile attitude towards them, but now we're getting absolutely destroyed. Our lunch eaten, like this is basically the Trudeau era from here to here, essentially flat. Look at USA. And this is not stock market, by the way. This is actual productivity, which is directly correlated to wages. USA 86,600. This would be on USD. Canada 53. We're almost half per capita now of the US. And we may get to that point. Like we might be pretty close to the point where the average American is twice as rich as the average Canadian. But these CBC CTV hosts talk like we have the leverage. Why? Because Carney gave a speech at Davos that other world leaders clapped at. Yay, we love you, Carney. You're standing up to the big bad Trump. This is pathetic, man. I wonder what's going to happen because it's almost like a lot of people in positions of political power in Canada just truly need like an economics lesson or something. What are we doing? This is just the delusion network. Every time the Canadian news convenes, it's like a Trump derangement syndrome competition. I'm going to be crazier than you today. No, I'm going to be crazier than you. Where's the limit to this?
But increasingly, this looks like a president who is isolated politically, isolated diplomatically, and we'll have to see how he manages himself economically.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Scott, thank you for breaking that down for us.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm way
That is
behind on
CTV.
chats. I'll just kind of selectively poke through, but I think we're at a record for my stream for number of live viewers or right around there. So shout out to you, everyone. Clap it up for the chat. Thank you, everyone. Like and subscribe. I appreciate that. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers here. And let's see if we can find some other ones. We'll go to this Forbes breaking news. Trump threatens 100. That's probably going to be some kind of mid-vid. We'll go to this one here. City News. This is just a 40-second video. Yeah, there's a whole bunch more to cover here, though, on here. And again, if someone wants to come debate me on this, like a pro-Carney person, that'd be great. But so far, no luck on that. Maybe this guy, but he's probably talking about the person talking. I don't think he's talking about me. Call in and debate if I have. Yeah, if anyone wants to debate me, you can just, you don't even need to like get my permission. The link is in the description or the pinned comment on YouTube. If you click that, you don't even need to show your face or anything.
U.S. President Donald Trump is threatening 100% tariffs on Canadian goods if the federal government goes through with a new trade deal with China. The president took to Truth Social writing, quote, if Governor Carney thinks he's going to make Canada a drop-off port for China to send goods and products to the United States, he is sorely mistaken. He continues to say that China will, quote, eat Canada alive if the prime minister chooses to shake hands with the country's president. The comments follow Carney's trip to Beijing last week, where a deal
If Canada makes it, if he shakes, where's the shake hands thing? What? Oh, I had the picture.
deal was struck that would allow China to send 49,000 electric vehicles to Canada at a 6.1% tariff rate.
We begin with some breaking news this morning. U.S. President Donald Trump is threatening.
And Prime Minister Mark Carney,
heck?
who has
This is-
avoided
this is
reporters'
BNN?
questions for days, has posted a video on X about Canada's response to threats from abroad.
With our economy under
Okay, we played this one.
Watches and how this tariff negotiation went about.
And then,
Then he
okay, I
talked
play
about
this at the beginning. Watch how Fox News talks about this. Way more realistic than the way we talk about this. I think Fox actually understands, from what I've seen of this clip so far, what this means for Canada.
Well, this is a Fox News alert this morning. President Trump is threatening Canada with tariffs if the country makes a deal with China. Now, as Canada appears to oppose the U.S. acquisition of Greenland, Trump wrote this on Truth Social. If Governor Carney, notice he said governor there, thinks he is going to make Canada a drop-off.
That's interesting because that's the first time that's been said. Governor Carney. That is a new one. Obviously, he said Governor Trudeau a ton.
Port for China to send goods and products into the United States. He's sorely mistaken. China will eat Canada alive, completely devour it, including the destruction of their businesses, social fabric, and general way of life.
I agree, Scott. The propaganda is amazing. And if you watch, again, CBC or CTV or Global or whatever, it's incredible, the propaganda. Almost never there's a point of view from maybe pro-America, pro-right-wing, pro-Republican Party. It's just people sitting there agreeing with each other like parrots. At least there's a lot of right-wing YouTube channels, like independently in Canada, the right wing has way more channels, but I think a lot of people still are not on YouTube that much, and they watch the mainstream channels and they buy into the fear mongering, because it's incredible fear mongering all the time.
If Canada makes a deal with China, it will immediately be hit with a 100% tariff against all Canadian goods and products coming into the U.S. Now, let's bring in former special envoy to Ukraine, Keith Kellogg. I was so excited to talk with you, General Kellogg. Thank you for your service to the Trump administration. Once again, you did a wonderful job in term 2, like term 1. You were in Davos with President Trump. What do you make of this latest threat against Canada? 100% for, quote, Governor.
This is the problem. You're right, Odinos. This is the problem. What Canada did in the last 15 years was so dumb, and it makes sense that we're in a very bad place to negotiate now because we have a weak economy. I mean, I brought that up, this chart. This puts us in a very bad position relative to where we were before. It's not like before, just because we have a somewhat small population doesn't mean we're a giant or anything, but we're in a way weaker position than we otherwise would have been if we would have actually been prioritizing major projects, not prioritizing DEI, not now pissing off America. I think this is the weakest we've actually ever been in my lifetime. And the scary part is a lot of liberals in Canada think the exact opposite. They think that this is somehow strength.
CARNEY.
Yeah, thanks, Kaylee, for having me on. It just amazes me that people do not understand President Trump. President Trump dominated Davos, and his speech in Davos was great, and he talked about Greenland. The fact of the matter, and I just wish people would stop clutching their pearls. Greenland has been on the table for a long time, since 1867.
See, this guy's actually reasonable, and he's on an American network. Jeez.
When the then Secretary of State Stewart, when he bought Alaska, so it's called Seward's Folly, he also wanted to buy Greenland at the time. Fast forward to President Truman. Truman was willing to buy Greenland as well. We're doing it for national security reasons. And for Canada, as an example, to take Chinese goods, President Trump is exactly right on providing tariffs. He is doing this for the security of the United States, and I applaud him for it. And he's very smart about what he's doing. I just wish people would back off a little bit, understand the national security elements, understand the history, and they'll do just fine. But stop going to this Trump derangement syndrome.
Exactly, bro. Let's go. Okay, another one from CTV here. Why Trump is responding with attacks against PM Carney. Just a 2-minute video. Let's take a look.
So this post comes just a week after Trump said Canada should make a deal with China. Why the change of heart?
Well, I think this was.
I mean, we just covered this. This is a different clip, but that's a very similar question. Was that the same reporter just asking somebody else, or no? That was different. It was a guy. Like, again, that's incredible. That was almost word for word the same question. Why the change of heart? Because the Davos speech. Everybody knows that. Why this? Oh my gosh.
So
it's so dishonest. This is just propaganda.
Post comes just a week. So this post comes just a week after Trump said Canada should make a deal with China. Why the change of heart?
Bro, we all know why. We all know. It was because Davos, where Mark Carney, time after time after time, told Trump that, it wasn't explicitly mentioned, but everybody knew that speech was about Trump. It's because of that. Are you kidding me? This is just a little bit of the aftermath. I'll come right back to that video, though.
Have built a remarkable partnership. Canada and the United States have built a remarkable partnership in the economy, in security, and in rich cultural exchange. But Canada doesn't live because of the United States. Canada thrives because we are Canadian.
That means nothing. Other people have made that point. Canada thrives because we are Canadian is the most ambiguous nothing burger statement you could ever say. What does that even mean?
News.
I mean, people clap for that. Bro,
Well, I think this was a change of heart because clearly the speech and the address that Carney gave in Davos certainly struck a nerve with the president. And now we're seeing
Yes. Okay. Shout out to this guy. He actually answered the question. We'll see where he goes from here, but no one else answered the question. I don't know who this is, but he's got a really good name, Eric.
Well, I think this was a change of heart because clearly the speech and the address that Carney gave in Davos certainly struck a nerve with the president. And now we're seeing that on again, off again, on again, off again relationship between the two countries is now off again, with now for the first time the president actually.
Ontario is upside down world. I agree. I lived in downtown Toronto for a little bit, and you could feel the wokeness in that city. Like people, you would overhear conversations of people talking about racism. And I'm not even making that up. You would hear that. Like Toronto, at least that's Toronto. That'd be like probably the epicenter of the wokeness, but it was definitely like that. A guy was wearing one time in downtown Toronto, I saw like in a convenience store, a red hat. It wasn't a MAGA hat, but another guy like looked like he was about to fight him because the guy was wearing a red hat. He's like, what the hell is that? He's like, oh, I thought that was a MAGA hat. He's like, oh, no, it's not. It's like a normal red hat. But Toronto is wild. Alberta sent 1.5 trillion. Is it that much since 1905? The money was intended to develop economies out east. Ottawa just wasted it. Yeah.
Showing the level of disrespect towards Carney that we saw against the former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Now, up until this point, we know that President Trump has had very glowing things to say about Prime Minister Carney, but clearly what we're seeing is the president is, I think, deeply threatened by the Prime Minister and his comments. And given the fact that Canada is now beginning to see this shift away from the United States, the president is now responding, and he's responding with attacks.
As you say, there's a lot of on again, off again with this relationship. And, you know, no one was expecting smooth sailing leading up to the highly anticipated CUSMA talks. But this will presumably heighten the tensions.
Oh, absolutely. And Carney has been walking a tightrope between the United States and China, the world's two biggest economies. And
he was kind of before, but now he's not. Now he obviously is choosing China. That statement would have been very fair, I think, a week ago, but it's not anymore.
There was always a question of could he actually continue to keep both of them close? And given the unpredictability of Donald Trump, how would that look, particularly now with this breakthrough deal with Beijing?
What's wrong? Well, I don't work at Fox News. I said that segment. I like Fox News. I'm not going to lie about that, but I don't endorse everything Fox News has ever said. They obviously have a little bit of an agenda, I would say. At times, I don't think what Fox News says is accurate, but overall, I have a positive view of Fox News. But come debate me on that if you want to, Graham. I don't think you're anyway, if you want to.
Clearly, the president is responding, and all of this is coming, as we know, negotiations on CUSMA will begin in earnest this spring.
One more thing I wanted to point out from that post, Trump.
By the way, I'm not even claiming I'm good at debating. I'm just saying I'm willing to do it. So maybe you'll come on here and you'll change my mind on something.
Referring here to Carney as Governor Carney in what appears to be an intentional jab at the prime minister.
That's right. And again, it's a clear line of disrespect, but also it makes clear also that that President Donald Trump still believes that Canada should be subservient to the United States, and Canada's sovereignty is always going to be in question as long as Donald Trump is president.
All right. Thank you for your time this morning, Eric. That is CTV News U.S. political analyst Eric Ham.
Eric Ham.
Diplomatic tension appears to be escalating between Prime Minister Mark Carney and U.S. President Donald Trump. Trump has just uninvited Carney from his...
This will be interesting to see. This is Trump throwing a tantrum. It says, oh my, what are we doing? In revoking Carney's Board of Peace invitation expert. And then there's more on the tariffs I want to watch too.
So-called Board of Peace. The president posting about it on social media
In the way they say that, so-called Board of Peace. You got to, whatever the U.S. president comes up with, you can't just call so-called. This isn't Trump, the real estate developer, making things out of thin air. It's the president making things, I guess, out of thin air. That gives it like a ton of legitimacy. It's not so-called. Trump, if the leader of the free world makes a thing, it's a thing now.
Night.
That's called winning the U.S. election and getting the mandate from the most powerful country. He gets to do stuff like that. It's not so-called board of peace. It's a board of peace.
Invited Carney from his so-called board of peace.
Like, how is this not propaganda? This is despicable.
The president posting about it on social media last night. His withdrawal following Carney's second major speech this week, in which he rebuked Trump's veiled threats against Canada at the World Economic Forum. Carney spoke yesterday at the Liberal cabinet retreat in Quebec City.
Canada and the United States have built a remarkable partnership in the economy, in security, and in rich cultural exchange. But Canada doesn't live because of the United States. Canada thrives because we are Canadian.
All right, to dig deeper into this, we've reached Scott Lucas. He's a professor of international politics at University College Dublin, joining us from Wicklow, Ireland. Thank you for making the time.
Thank you.
A lot to talk about here with this late-breaking news last night that Trump was going to withdraw his invitation to Carney to join the Board of Peace. What do you make of this move?
So let me get this straight. Mark Carney had already said, or Canada had already said, they weren't going to come to Trump's party anyway. They were washing their hair, or they had better things to do than go to effectively a symbolic event called the Board of Peace, which is more about Trump's ego than it's actually about peace. And
why? How come everyone that comes on, I should almost name my channel the Trump derangement syndrome of Canadian mainstream media hosts and guests. That's a terrible name because it's like fucking 7 sentences. But again, like, why? How is this so blatantly partisan hackery? Everyone that comes on here, it's a competition. Who can be the craziest? This must be how you get invited back. There must be like someone off camera. I give him a 7 out of 10 for how deranged he was toward Trump. We'll maybe have him back. And then if someone comes on, I give her 9 out of 10. That was amazing. She freaked out for so long. Is this supposedly good for ratings to freak out like this? Because CBC doesn't get good ratings and they get taxpayer money anyway. Why not just report the truth?
then Trump decides, oh, I'm going to be the one that set the news agenda by saying, oh, I don't want you here anyway. I don't want you in my party. I mean,
it's called he does set the news agenda. It's called being president. Of course, he sets a lot of the news agenda. He's the #1 news agenda person on earth.
That's effectively what happened. I don't want to be too flippant about this. I think there are serious issues to discuss here, given what has happened at Davos this week, given the turmoil inside Washington domestically, as well as their foreign policy, and given the very important speech that Mark Carney made yesterday about Canadian identity and Canadian values. But Trump here is just simply throwing a tantrum because, #1, he was upstaged at Davos by Mark Carney's speech. #2, because
upstaged to who? To other global elites? Who is Trump upstaged to who? Like, does the average European agree with Mark Carney? Maybe if they're the brainwashed lib version of the people in Canada, but how is this good for Canada? I wish these people would at least admit that what Carney did was very bad for Canada.
he had to bail out of trying to seize Greenland, in part because of the unified front of Canada and the European powers, and 3, because his Board of Peace show was pretty much a flop, with only about 23 countries signing on, only 2 of them coming from Europe.
There's been a lot of talk coming.
That's a flop. 23 countries.
Coming out of Mark Carney's initial speech in Davos and his trip before that to China and Qatar about some of the gains that were made over the last week for Carney's administration, but also some of the damage that may have been done over the last week, particularly when it comes to his relationship with the White House, as we've been talking about over those last two speeches now. Canadians are hearing different signals. We have Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick spends a lot of time with Trump. We're also hearing from U.S. Ambassador Pete Hoekstra, who is speaking with David Common. Let's just take a moment and listen to what they had to say.
They have the second best deal in the world. And all I got to do is listen to this guy whine and complain.
I think it's great that the president and the prime minister have developed a good relationship. This would be a great topic for them to get on the phone and work through it and talk through it.
Well, I think that great relationship's over now.
We've got a lot of decisions
Governor Carney
in front of us.
Okay, so sort of two different takeaways from all that's happened over the last week. What's your take on how much damage has been done and where the relationship sits right now?
Yeah, anyone can call in at any point. You could even call in if you agree with me, by the way. You don't have to call. You don't have to be debating. Yeah, people feel free to call into the show. Tell me why I'm wrong, or just if you want to give a quick take or whatever.
All right, let me put this into a wider context. First of all, in the specifics, so Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, the same guy who went to Davos and said, look, NATO relies on us, the US, we get to say what happens, whose comments on Europe were so provocative that there was a walkout at a dinner, a walkout that included Christine Lagarde, the head of the European Central Bank. Howard Lutnick, in an administration that has shown utmost arrogance, calling Mark Carney arrogant. This is part of the Trump temper tantrum, and it needs to be recognized as such. In terms of the practical effect, look, that trade deal, initially NAFTA, now USMCA, it is a very important trade deal, but it's the Trump folks who have threatened to walk out on it. It's not Canada threatening to walk out on it. This is an attempt to bully the Canadians. Now, Pete Hoekstra has put a different view in that speech that you heard about, which is, look, there's a way of working together. We can make a deal. But only a few days ago, Pete Hoekstra.
That's this guy here, U.S. Ambassador to Canada.
We can make a deal. But only a few days ago, Pete Hoekstra was also saying that the U.S. doesn't need Canada. So
because they don't. They don't need Canada like Canada needs the U.S. It would be like, in a perfect world, it'd be better for both countries if they would work together, but USA doesn't they don't, I'm sure they don't love that Canada underfunded NATO for years and years and had a lot of dairy tariffs, had a lot of just ridiculous tariffs, I would say, on America. So aside from the fact, and obviously, I think the big one too, to me, is just Canada has taken advantage of the American military might for so long, and for whatever reason, no U.S. president called Canada out for that. So it's got to be beneficial for the U.S. too, or what? Like the U.S. eventually is going to get upset. And I think it was just inevitable before somebody like Trump was going to become president and take a look at the numbers and say, what the hell are we doing? Canada is getting, like Trump said the other day in that speech at Davos, Canada gets a lot of freebies. I believe that was Davos, or maybe that was his statement after, but that's true. We have gotten so many freebies from America, whether these liberals like that or not. That's just the truth.
Oh, I think the wider context that I promised you is this. This was the week that we saw, and this was a catalytic week, when not just Canada, but European countries effectively said that the old international order is not just damaged, it's gone, in large part because of what we are seeing in Washington, but also because of what we're seeing with the Russian invasion of Ukraine and because of the position of China. Mark Carney's trips to Qatar and China are part of the realignment that European countries are also making that involves not only China and the Gulf, but it involves India.
Just put the title of the video in the chat and I'll take a look at it off the screen here and see if it kind of fits with what I'm talking about here.
Yeah. Other parts of the world, including South America, which is that the economic, political, and even military relationships.
Yeah, I'll go to this Vassie. What's the Vassie interview? Because I want to go to that, actually. I'll play that. She kind of calls out the the Liberal MP, right?
Have to be forged without first going to the United States and saying, how are you doing there? Because you have people in the Trump administration, not all the administration, but key players, not just Donald Trump, but J.D. Vance, the vice president, Howard Lutnick, who do not see Canada and Europe as allies. They see them as either potential or actual adversaries. That's why you're getting the rhetoric out of Washington, but that's why you're getting the firm line that's been taken this week by Canada and by most of the European governments. And indeed, I think this will go farther and pick up other countries as well that are saying, we don't have to bend the knee to Washington.
Because we know that the prime minister's speech was not off the cuff. Neither of them were. They were very carefully crafted speeches aimed at, one would assume, accomplishing something in Davos. His speech drew a lot of attention. Maybe not the attention that he maybe wanted to get from President Trump, or perhaps it was. What's your sense of, we talked about the damage, but the specific accomplishments or what Carney was trying to get out of it?
Well, I think this works on multiple levels. One is you have a split administration. I mean, we focused on Trump and Vance and Lutnick, but there are other officials, career officials, and I think also you might rule in possibly someone like Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, who do not want to see the U.S. trashing all its alliances. So you speak back to the United States as Europe.
In Quebec City.
Hey, this is a different one, but I don't think this is the one that I was talking about in the chat there. But our guy Scott Reed is on this one too. So I want to see what this is. This is we got a speech about national identity. That's the title of this video here.
Mark Carney in Quebec City, delivering an address to Canadians as his office builded. A number of his cabinet ministers surrounding him there. They will remain in Quebec City through to the end of tomorrow. They are huddled there for a cabinet retreat ahead of the return of the House of Commons.
Hello, Richard. Thank you for watching. Thanks for chatting. Camrose, great place. Every Maple Mega boomer, our youth and old voting for independence. I'm going to cover Alberta independence again, I think tonight. I'm sure I will, but I'll just take a little break, then I'll go live again.
Commons on Monday. The Prime Minister drew some links with the speech that he delivered in Davos, Switzerland a few days ago to the World Economic Forum, essentially aiming to connect the national or more domestic situation with the world as we live in it, the way in which he characterized it during that speech in Davos, and hit on some policies that he has pursued or his government has pursued since they came into office, and then promised to redouble those efforts going ahead. I am joined now by Scott Reed, Lisa Raitt, and Kathleen Monk, who were with us in the lead up to the delivery of that speech and who listened in to the speech in its entirety and are here for their takes on the other end of it. Scott,
let's see. Do you think these takes are going to be good or bad? Because Lisa Raitt, I've seen sometimes she has good takes, sometimes they're bad. We will see.
I'll start with you. We had thought maybe there would be something specific announced in this or to drive the agenda heading into the return of the House of Commons. There was no policy announcement. It was mostly a recap alongside a history lesson, a recap of what they've done so far and some promises to keep doing it. What stood out to you?
Well, as you say, I mean, we expected a speech about national priorities. We got a speech about national identity, about the idea of Canada. I suppose what stood out to me, because it was largely a standard political speech, a recap of agenda items that they pursued, wrapped in a sort of focus on the historic nature of Canada and its nature, steeped there in the history of Quebec City. I guess the one section that stood out, perhaps if there's anything that really was an echo of Davos, it was fairly early in the speech and then very much echoed at the very end when the Prime Minister said, look, you know, we used to take it for granted that these values could go forward undefended. Now we are going to have to fight for these values. And I think he was really there alluding to the fact that we no longer have a cooperative, reliable ally in the United States. And again, at the end of the speech, when he said, we're here because of us. We're not here because of the United States, and we're remarkable because of Canada, not because of America.
I mean, I actually wonder what Canada's economy, if we shut off all trade to America, what would that even look like? We'd be so screwed. That would be so crazy.
But to be honest with you, this did not ring out with news in the way that Davos did or the way that we expected.
Yeah, that last line I think was added because I don't see it in the original copy of the speech, Lisa. Yeah, the one around like we don't live because of the United States. We had talked in anticipation of the speech about whether or not he would address that comment from the president of the U.S., which was made in response to the Davos speech. That was the only real reference in there to it. And like I said, I'm pretty sure it was added later on because it's not in the original copy of the speech. Lisa, what do you make of the speech? What do you think it did?
Okay, I just asked this to ChatGPT. Just for fun, for what it's worth. If Canada could no longer trade with the USA, how would that affect GDP in Canada? If Canada could no longer trade with the United States at all, meaning exports to and imports from the US suddenly stopped, the impact on Canada's GDP would be very large because the US is by far Canada's biggest trading partner. Here's a breakdown. Canada's trade, roughly 75% of Canada's merchandise exports go to the US. So, I mean, that's so much. This means Canada's economy is much more dependent on the U.S. than the U.S. is on Canada. By the way, this is ChatGPT. It's like sometimes people accuse it of being woke. So I don't think it would be trying to help Canada out here. Direct impact, Canada would lose almost 1/5 of its GDP in export revenue overnight. GDP would fall sharply as export industries shrink, investment drops, and jobs are lost in sectors linked to the U.S. demand, energy, manufacturing, agri-goods. Even partial disruptions like high tariffs rather than a total stop. Can you see it on screen? Yeah. Models project Canada's, with large but not total trade barriers, models project Canada's GDP could be 1% to 5% lower. Broader economic effects, jobs, millions of jobs are tied indirectly or directly. Investment, foreign and domestic businesses would cut capital spending. The Canadian dollar would likely weaken sharply as if it's not weak enough. Has anyone been to America lately? Because our dollar for a long time has been pretty brutal. When you're in America, it actually feels like every time you go to eat that you're getting totally squeezed because the dollar, if you go to get a burrito for $10, it's like 15 pretty much. With the currency conversion, plus like the foreign fee, it's tough down there.
Didn't do.
It's not really clippable. I think he should have let Davos stand. It probably would have been a little bit better for him. I understand that.
They're responding to this speech of Carney being like, we stand on our own, blah, 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 that stuff. And I don't know why she says let Davos stand. The Davos speech was a disaster in my view.
What do you think it did or didn't do?
It's not really clippable. I think he should have let Davos stand. It probably would have been a little bit better for him. I understand that you have to make these domestic speeches. I was looking for, like you said, a policy announcement or something bigger going forward. I get what their next slogan is going to be. We choose Canada. I think that's a very good election slogan if that's the direction that they're going in. I think the merch will be rocking. I can't wait to see that. And it was a very long speech, which is going to have to rely upon clipping and pushing out into social media and getting covered by folks like yourself. And I don't know if there's any rallying moments of clippability in there. And I know people are going to say, boy, you're really cynical, Lisa, but that's the game, right? That's what we're talking about in terms of politics. And that's what happens when you have a speech that is just a very political speech, as Scott pointed out. It's something that would be given going into a stump or speech from the throne, maybe.
So why do you think the Prime Minister decided to deliver, Kathleen, that kind of speech now, a couple of days out from the return of the House of Commons?
Hello, Cindy. Thank you for chatting. How are you doing tonight?
I agree with Lisa that I would have let the Switzerland
Hello,
speech.
Joe. Thanks for chatting. How are you doing? Carney thinks he's tricking Canada, thinking the next election will be different. Too big to rig. Man, I don't know. I don't trust the Canadian voter at this point. I think Carney might win again. That's been the trend. I mean, the Liberals have won 4 in a row. I don't know how things are going to change. It's very, very depressing.
Each stand.
And again, it makes no sense to me online that almost every big channel that's independent, at least it's not a mainstream channel, is right wing. They're almost all right wing. So where are all these liberal voters? Are they on Instagram? Do they just like the short dopamine hit of TikTok and Instagram?
Would have let that breathe because it's getting headlines around the world. This was more of a history lesson than it was really a newsmaker. I think the only line, and I was scanning my printout too of the speech to try to find if that was a last minute insert or if it was written in. It was definitely a last minute insert. So that was the only direct response towards the last,
Hello, Dennis. Thank you for chatting.
45 seconds of the speech where he said, Canadians don't live because of the US. We live because of ourselves. I mean, I'm paraphrasing wildly here, but that was the direct reference to when Trump in Switzerland yesterday basically said that that Canadians only exist because of the US. So that was, a direct pushback on.
Look, we just covered that though. I would say like if the US totally stopped the relationship with Canada, yeah, Canada would still exist. There's obviously hyperbole, but I mean, it'd be a different country. We would be so screwed. And again, people would die. Like, we need America.
Trump's statements without mentioning him directly or referencing his speech. But the rest of the speech, was largely, kind of a history lesson, outlining their agenda of what they're going to do, checked a few boxes, talked about labor, talked about building, talked about big projects, but didn't really set out a new agenda. So I think he would have been stronger in letting the Davos speech stand and then just doing a wrap up post cabinet. But we'll see.
People like the Davos speech. That's so stupid.
Lots of news out of cabinet. We're going to see all of the cabinet ministers' scrums over the next few days. We're going into a weekend where we'll have the Liberal caucus is also meeting in Ottawa. And so there's going to be lots of news. But whether the speech was necessary or was really going to rattle Canadians in the same way that we've seen the Davos speech change people's minds and really open up to CARNEY, I don't think this was it.
Well, I'm glad it happened because I got to see all of you. So thank you for lending us so much of your time and your analysis today. I appreciate it very much. Scott Reed, Lisa Raitt, and Kathleen Monk.
Yeah, shout out to
there is a ton for us to talk.
This might be it, although I don't think so. Maybe I'll come to this because it's actually I have not watched this video yet. But I did find this. This actually looks like a cool video too. Premier talks best. That's a great, that'll be fascinating. Here though, shout out to whoever in the chat said that about Northern perspective. I forget. We're going to get, this is the take, I believe. So the Northern perspective, show it to them. They kind of clip some of this up. We'll just take their clipping and we're going to watch Vashi talking to the international trade minister here about the guardrails. Let's take a look.
Multiple occasions say that there will be guardrails to this relationship. I never heard anyone specify what they are. Minister, what are the guardrails? My question with respect was about the guardrails. Our own
We are Canadian because we are Canada. Exactly. What does that mean?
Prime Minister in April qualified it as the biggest security threat to Canada. So far, you haven't provided any specific answer.
That's a good question. And because a lot of people in America have been pointing this out. I'm not going to claim to be an expert on how China does their business internationally, but a lot of people in Canada, I mean, I think in this stream or maybe the last one covered a take from Americans saying China has a history of not honoring their trade deals. So yeah, you got a trade deal with China. And then even Lutnick said in that interview that we did, I covered this yesterday, that yeah, the Chinese will let you will let you buy from China, but will China open up their market to Canada? He was saying probably not.
Alongside the Prime
I believe that's what he said.
Minister for most of that trip internationally, where the overarching goal was essentially to diversify the markets that we are able to send our exports to. China,
in theory, is fine.
got a lot of attention given our history with that country. And so on that note, I listened to Minister Champagne just a moment ago talk about eyes wide open. I heard the Prime Minister on multiple occasions say that there will be guardrails to this relationship as we try to amplify trade with China. I never heard anyone specify what they are. Minister, what are the guardrails?
Well, if you look at China, our second largest trading partner, it's very important that we continue to engage with China. Very successful trip. We've been working with them, to negotiate agriculture access. In fact, over $7 billion of agriculture access for canola, for seafood, for beef. In fact, our very first shipment of beef is already out there now. Canola's out there as well. And so it's very important that we continue to open up
Hey, what are the guardrails, though?
access for our producers, for our workers, but also about EVs. That's very important as well.
This guy sounds like ChatGPT.
Especially being an MP in Ontario, speaking to workers. Stellantis is in my riding, 3,000 people laid off. Speaking to those workers, they asked me, they just say, we want
He
to
sounds like a robot. It almost looks like an AI video.
build cars. We don't care who we build them for. We just want to build cars. And so this is very important in terms of attracting joint venture opportunities between Chinese and Canadian companies to help build those cars in Canada.
Okay. So he obviously didn't answer anything there. We'll go ahead a little bit. Maybe she presses him, I hope.
And I appreciate, Minister, the economic case, right, as you lay it out for more trade with China. But my question with respect was about the guardrails that your government is planning to put in place. I know our audience and you will be familiar with the fact that in April, the Prime Minister, in response to a question in the election debate about what is the greatest security threat facing Canada, his answer was China. So the question around guardrails pertains to that. Like, what guardrails is your government going to put in place to help navigate this relationship so that we do not suffer as a result of, more trade with China?
So part of the agreements that we signed on the ground in China was law enforcement collaboration, cooperation with each other to keep our communities safe. And so I think that's very important for those watching so they understand, what we're doing there. We're making sure there's partnerships on energy, on agriculture, on consumer goods. But also, of course, public safety and law enforcement is very, very important. We want to make sure that our citizens' safety is never compromised. And so, going in with eyes wide open, as you said, it's very important to our government. But, as the Prime Minister said in Davos, we need to see the world for what it is, not what we wish it to be. And so we need to approach it very pragmatically and constructively. And that's exactly what our government is doing.
Man, he sounds like a lizard person or something. He's talking like monotone, so just... We need to make sure that we have a great relationship with China. We have to be real. He sounds like a boring ChatGPT.
But again, with respect, Minister, I'll reference comments made, by the Liberal Party, by the government at the time when you introduced the Indo-Pacific strategy, whose, primary aim was to develop a strategy to counter the increasing power of China. China's rise as a global actor, Melanie Joly said at the time, is reshaping the strategic outlook of every state in the region. It seeks to shape the global environment into one that is more permissive to interests and values that increasingly depart from ours. The China of 1970, she said, is not the China of today. China is an increasingly disruptive global power. Are you telling me that more cooperation between law enforcement agencies is going to counter that or protect Canadians from the impact of that?
Kudos to Vashi in this interview, because she's not only bringing up points that we've been bringing up, that Canadians have been bringing up, the fact that Mark Carney has said that China is the biggest security threat.
Very important between two countries to make sure that public safety is paramount. But at the same time, it's about economic opportunities. As you know, a year ago, the situation was very different. U.S. being our largest trading partner, we promised Canadians that we diversify our trading partners. We promised Canadians that we continue to unlock opportunities for our industries. Our industries are asking for us to do this, and that's exactly why we made sure that we made progress on our relationship with China on the economic front. But you look at what we're doing on the cultural front as well. China agreed to lift visas for Canadians that are traveling there. China agreed to encourage more group travel to Canada, which supports millions of dollars in tourism for small and...
Hello, Nun. How are you doing? Thanks for chatting. Yeah, we very well could be. If you want to expand on that'd be cool. But I mean, I agree. I just don't know exactly what you're referring to.
mid-size operators here.
This guy, like, I almost think some of these government officials might talk this way on purpose. It almost lulls you to sleep with how boring it is.
In Canada, and so we're making sure that we're creating opportunities, but it all comes down to affordability. Here at the cabinet,
they say Poilievre talks in slogans. This guy is just one talking point after the other. He's not even. This is actually kind of a pointless clip because, like, Vashti should even be pressing him harder. Where are the guardrails?
Planning forum, we're talking about affordability. We're talking about building Canada strong. We're talking about our sovereignty because this is what's important.
Look at those just slogan. This
is what we hear from Canadians. They want jobs. They want to be able to produce world-class products. The world wants what Canada has, and that's what we're out there pitching for.
Certainly, I understand, like I said, the economic imperative for it. I understand, as you also point out, that the United States has drastically changed its behavior. But China has not, right? China still does.
Exactly. That is a perfect way to frame it. Let's go.
Same things that it did 3 years ago, so much so that our own Prime Minister in April qualified it as the biggest security threat to Canada. So far, you haven't provided any specific answer as to, as you amplify this trading relationship, which I, again, understand the imperative to do so, like, how are you going to guard against?
Hello, Just. Thank you for chatting.
But our own Prime Minister has identified as the biggest security threat to our country. There are no specifics that you have provided tonight to provide assurances to Canadians on that front.
I really like this point that Vashti made. She says, sure, the U.S. has changed their behavior, but China hasn't.
I know. Yeah, exactly. Totally. Let's see. I'll just go forward a little bit more. I'm just trusting Northern Perspective is clipping this up correctly. I'm sure they are.
We've signed between dialogue, between having conversations with law enforcement. Our countries are having diplomacy back and forth. This is something that we've committed to back in our election. In May, having the first conversation with my counterpart, Minister Wong, to reopen the Joint Economic Commission that sat dormant for 8 years. You need to be able to have dialogue. In order to have, you're never going to have agreements.
Oh, you need to be able to have dialogue. This guy's bothering me with just how boring and how not, like, he's just the ultimate avoider in this interview.
Fully 100%, but you need to be able to have conversations with nations around the world for the opportunities of Canadians. That's what we're going to continue to stay focused on.
Yeah, I'm certainly not intimating that you shouldn't have any of those conversations. My question was more about, you know, the language that your
She's being way too nice to him, actually. Like, I agree the pushback is fine, but she's actually being way nice to him.
Has employed around guardrails and how there is a lack of specifics. On the agreements that you're referencing, I had a question particularly around energy, because there is some language in the MOU that would leave, I think, the reader with the impression that there will be greater access allowed to China in some strategic sectors, in particular oil and gas. Is your government okay with a Chinese state-owned company owning, controlling shares, for example, in the oil patch in various companies or operations?
So currently there are joint ventures, in LNG Canada 1 in Kitimat, BC. PetroChina was involved in that project, obviously a minority stake, and that's something that we're open to considering. If you look at 7 different LNG projects in development, that part of the world is fast growing. They need more energy. They need more agriculture.
I think she's being way too nice to him. Like, he's not answering her question.
Goods, and guess what? Canada has both, and so we'll make sure that we continue to promote our resources for the betterment of all Canadians.
You know, I find it very interesting.
That was frustrating. Yeah, I don't know. I know lots of people online are praising Vashti. I think she was way too nice still. I don't think that was very good. Okay, I'm going to finish with this video, and then I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to take a break, and I'll probably go live later on Alberta independence, but I'm just going to finish with this video here. Premier talks Besson's invitation, Calgary Water, and Judge. I'm only going to cover the Besson part. So this might be like 30 seconds.
The U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent's Friday comments on the Alberta independence movement, inviting the province to come down into the U.S., was a hot topic during Premier Danielle Smith's call-in radio show Saturday. But the Premier says a desire to become American is not what's driving the movement.
When I talk to people who are frustrated with the way we've been treated for the past 10 years, they don't say, therefore, I want to be an American state. That is not what I am hearing. They want a new relationship with Canada, and that's what I'm doing. I'm forging a new relationship with Canada.
Smith said she's meeting with the U.S. ambassador next week to make her views on the issue very clear. The premier also talked Calgary's water supply issues now that she's appointed a group of ministers to learn how the problem got this severe.
Yeah, I'll finish there, but I think she's probably correct. I don't think the average Albertan voting for independence wants to be the 51st state. I think it's way overwhelming. They want to be an independent country. But anyway, I'm going to finish the stream now. Thank you everyone for watching. That was a lot of fun. Thank you for all the chats. I kind of got a little behind on the chats. I like talking to the chat a lot, but I kind of got overwhelmed because you can't really talk to all of them all the time, but I appreciate all the discussion. It was great. I tried to read all of them, but yeah, anyway, I'll probably go live in about an hour. So be on the lookout for that. Roughly an hour. We'll see on Alberta independence. I'm just going to kind of do a general recap. Yeah. Thank you, man. Thank you, Jason. And yeah, please definitely just subscribe. Please subscribe to the channel if you're not, because I'm trying to get, once I get to 1,000, then you actually get, you can actually run ads on YouTube. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dan. Yeah, that video, I actually, I don't know why I didn't say this. I saw the video. Probably I'll watch it on the Alberta Independence stream. Anyway, thank you, everyone. Have a great night. See you in the next stream.